Did Obama's White House coordinate with the DOJ and the FBI against Donald Trump? And I guarantee there's no political influence in any investigation conducted by the DOJ or the FBI. All things we now know to be true. Joining us now, Fox News investigative reporter Sara Carter, Joe DeGeneva of DeGeneva and Tunsing. Welcome both of you to the program. We have some news that we've been following. The House Intel Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence demanding that the FBI and the DOJ finally comply with their committee's subpoena to review documents pertaining to the Bureau's Russia investigation. And particularly, they want the committee to turn over unredacted versions of the original investigative document known as the electronic communication that launched the FBI counterintelligence investigation into the whole Russia issue. That, and of course, the question of, well, should a sitting president, when there's no underlying crime, be talking to a special counsel? We start with Joe DeGeneva. Joe, collusion, A, is not a crime. Firing Comey is not a crime. Hoping that General Flynn doesn't get in trouble after 35 years of military service, that's not a crime. Looking at the team that Mueller has put together and the incestuous friendships of Mueller and Comey and Rosenstein and Andrew McCabe, I don't know what the special counsel has in his mind. What should the White House and the lawyers for the White House do?
I'm not speaking for the president, but I can tell you this. Under no circumstances should the president agree to an interview with Mr. Mueller. And the reason is very simple. The president, and this is the most important news out of all this nonsense over the last 48 hours, the president is not a target of a criminal investigation and never has been from the beginning of this idiotic investigation authorized by the incompetent Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein. The president is said to be a subject, that is, a person whose conduct is within the scope of the grand jury's investigation. That's pure crap. It doesn't mean anything. He's a witness. And guess what? He's a witness who doesn't know anything about anything. The special counsel knows that. This is nothing more than a fog designed to try and get the president into an interview and trap him into a perjury trap. This is a disgraceful abuse of power by Mueller. It is a disgraceful abuse of supervisory authority by Rosenstein, who has stopped nothing in this idiotic investigation. Rosenstein is a fool, an absolute fool, but he's worse than that. I have finally come to the conclusion that Rod Rosenstein is purposely forcing the issue to force the president to to decide whether or not to testify, to force a constitutional crisis, to force a confrontation in the courts so that he, Rod Rosenstein, can stand up just like James Comey did in that idiotic July 5th, 2016 news conference and claim that the only thing Rod Rosenstein, cares about is the rule of law. Nothing could be farther from the truth. Rosenstein is a coward. He didn't want to do all the tough work that had to be done, like Sessions has decided to do in appointing Mr. Huber to look into the FISA. Do you trust scandal.
Huber? Do you trust Mr. Huber?
I do. I have every reason in the world. I've been looking into him. I have every reason in the world to believe that he is a stable guy. And by the way, let me just tell you something. Sean, I've been a U.S. attorney. I've been an independent counsel. I've been a prosecutor and an investigator for over 40 years. There is a cadence to criminality. I want to repeat that for your listeners. There is a cadence to criminality. And the plot to frame President Trump has that criminal cadence. Mr. Huber knows that. We now know that he's had a grand jury underway for a considerable number of months. I think that Mr. Brennan and Mr. Clapper have much to worry about. There's no doubt that Mr. McDade is gone. He is going down.
What about yeah, go ahead.
The only issue now is whether or not Sally Yates and others who came up with this idiotic criminal theory that Michael Flynn violated the Logan Act in order to do spying and criminal investigation, whether or not Huber will push the envelope so far as to say that those decisions made by senior DOJ people were so politically corrupt that they are criminal. The bottom line for me is it was all criminal, and it's so obvious right now to a seasoned investigator that there was a plot to frame Trump if Hillary lost the election that I am predicting right now. Huber will indict a number of former FBI, DOJ, CIA people, and it will happen this year.
That's a bold prediction. Sara Carter, let me bring you into all of this. The Washington Post is saying that Robert Mueller is now unlikely to indict Trump, but will issue a series of reports. If he issues reports, well, isn't he basically, because he's not going to indict a sitting president anyway, but he's going to issue a report that is going to be interpreted by Nancy Pelosi. Oh, this is an impeachable offense. Therefore, if the Democrats win, they want to impeach him. Isn't that what it's really about?
I absolutely believe that's what it's really about. I've been speaking to a number of sources today, Sean, that are very concerned about that. You know, they tried to downplay this report. Oh, he's just putting together this obstruction report, his report on what he's discovered. You know, he's really pushing for the president to do this interview with him in order to finalize this report and get this report out. But I have to agree with Joe DeGenova here, based on the people that I've been speaking with today. If the president chooses to speak with Mueller, he is really setting himself up. If his attorneys say, go ahead and speak with him, he could be setting himself up for some type of perjury trap. I mean, there's a lot of leeway here with the special counsel, and he's able to pretty much direct where he wants to go with this. It could be very concerning if the president does speak with him, because he is a subject, not a target of the investigation. So there. All right,
well, let's talk about how far can Mueller take this, Joe DeGenova. In other words, the president says, no, there's no underlying crime. And, you know, the idea that maybe they want to know what he was thinking at the time when he fired Comey. Well, thoughts aren't crimes. You know, that's why I never understood the idea that, well, you give more penalty for somebody that kills somebody if they have certain thoughts in their head. You should punish murderers. You should punish people that are violent, you know, without trying to. But my question is, what is Mueller's move if the president and his attorney say, no, go, we're not talking to you?
Well, that depends upon what his purpose is. If his purpose is, as the Washington Post has reported, that he just wants to interview a president so he can finalize his report, then he has absolutely no right to interview the president of the United States. And whether that's his reason or not, let's assume he writes a report. He can't issue that report. That report goes to Rod Rosenstein. Well, it's obvious what Rod Rosenstein is going to do. The guy has no cojones. He'll issue the report, because that's what he does. He's a bureaucrat. He's a political hack. He pretends to be this above the fray lawyer who makes all these wonderful decisions. Rod Rosenstein is a career guy who cares about one thing, his next job. So what does Mueller do if the president says, I'll answer some written questions and that's it? And Mueller says, well, that's not good enough. In my opinion, because the president is not the target, and because he obviously is not a witness who has any information whatsoever, that this is a trap. And he should refuse. The president should refuse. He should refuse to give any.
Okay, and then what happens from there? Then we have.
At that point, Mueller has a choice. Mueller has a choice. He can write in his report that the president refused to testify, and therefore he harmed the investigation by not providing his views. He can issue a subpoena, which the president can then claim the Fifth Amendment, and then the subpoena has to be withdrawn. And then, if Mueller wants to, he could try to immunize the president, at which point he should be fired.
Why would he be fired at that point?
Because trying to immunize the president in that scenario as it played out would show that the only thing he's trying to do is force his testimony so he can trap him into perjury.
I don't disagree with anything either one of you are saying, and based on the team of people that he has put together, I think we have to lean in that direction, that's what they're trying. Joe DeGenova, Sara Carter, quick break. We'll come back more with them on the other side. And as we continue with attorney Joe DeGenova with DeGenova and Tunsing, and also with Sara Carter, Fox News investigative reporter. Sara, what are you hearing from Nunes and his committee as it relates to the letter that they sent to Rosenstein and to FBI Director Wray, because they have been slow, and even Jeff Sessions is telling them to speed things up?
Well, they're certainly concerned because they haven't gotten what they've asked for. And one of the things that they're really looking for is unredacted versions of the documents that they've requested. One being the electronic, they call it an electronic communication. And what that really is the very first document that set off basically the Trump alleged Trump-Russia collusion investigation. What was in that document? Now, they received the document, but they received it so heavily redacted, they couldn't even understand what was going on in that document, and they complained about it. The FBI stymied them on it. Then they said they weren't going to give it to them, and then they said, look, if you don't give us, and this was in the letter, this information by April 11th, we will take matters into our own hands and take this to court. We have subpoenaed you for this. You said you were going to cooperate with us. That was on August 24th of last year. And now we want this document. Not only do they want that document, they also want all of the Carter Page FISA applications. Those are the foreign intelligence surveillance warrants that were on Carter Page. Remember, the House Intelligence Committee did select Trey Gowdy to view those documents because they felt he was the most qualified. And that was when they were going through their report, which they finalized and found no collusion between the president and Russia. But what they want to do is have the members see those FISA applications. They want to have the ability to see it themselves. They want...
Wouldn't that be proof positive that we know that they knew that Hillary paid for it? We know that they didn't tell the FISA court. So the information was presented under false pretenses. They purposely omitted information. Joe DeGeneva, why do I believe if I purposely lied to a judge and handed over unverified false information that was paid for by a political opponent and not telling them, why do I think I'd be in jail and you probably couldn't even get me out?
You would be. But here's what's interesting about what Sara just reported. According to Sara, Nunes has said if they don't produce the documents, they're going to go to court. Why are they going to go to court? That's putting their fate in the hands of a third party. Why aren't they moving to hold the same people in contempt like they did recently with Sessions, with Wray, and Rosenstein? Has Ryan told them not to use contempt as a way to enforce their subpoenas? If that's the case, this oversight situation is going to be lengthy, and it will not be over before the election.
That is really chilling and frightening. Last word, Sara. Go ahead.
Well, no, I think that definitely is an option for them, Joe and Sean, and I think this is something they're very serious about. Look, I have heard that there will be a lot of infighting this next week between both of them, and it appears that probably in the end, Director Wray is going to give up that electronic communication because according to the sources that I've spoken with, this is not considered a highly classified document. This is a document that the House members have requested and that they would be willing to see. And remember, it goes all the way back to George Papadopoulos. If this is what they said started the investigation, they want to know all the details and all the facts of what originally started it.
All right. Thank you both. Phenomenal work, Sara Carter and Joe DeGeneva.